Hey, what's up, guys? Good morning. I'm kind of gonna be starting coming back on here. When I feel inspired to do a video, I do a video. I did a video maybe a few weeks back called "The Fall of America," and to me, that was a very powerful video because I'm trying to get people to wake up to the fact that we are on the brink of disaster, right? With the current government in, we are on the brink of disaster. And I want to use biblical examples of this. And the Lord inspired me to go to Ezekiel, and I have an apologetics Bible, and I was reading the introduction to Ezekiel, and he was talking about basically the kings of that time and how they were on the brink of destruction, and they actually were led into destruction. So I'm going to read the entire thing, and then we're going to talk about it at the end. Disclaimer, this may be a long video, so just letting you know now. All right, let's get into it. It says the last years of the last year of the kingdom of Judah were filled with the tragedy and intrigue of a nation disintegrating. King Josiah was Judah's last godly ruler. After Hilkiah the priest discovered the book of the law in the temple, Josiah instituted religious reforms in an attempt to bring revival. Upon his untimely death in 609 BC, he was succeeded by his son Jehoahaz, who immediately set out to reverse the spiritual progress made by his father. After only 3 months, Pharaoh Necho took him captive and replaced him with Eliakim, another son of Josiah, to whom he gave the throne named Jehoiakim. The son continued his brother's policies of reversing the religious reform their father had inflated. So that kind of sounds like, I'm going to get a little bit political here. That sounds like, Trump coming in, doing the right things, and then Biden coming in and destroying the work that he did in the 4 years that he was in office. Right. So these are the things that are happening in our country are nothing new to God. Right. God has seen the rise and fall of nations, and he's caused the rise and fall of nations. And so, God uses, whether it's, special forces going into Latin America or, going into the Middle East, whatever, God uses those things to make nations rise and fall. Right. So instituting a dictator here, instituting a dictator there. Right. That's just one example. But this is just an example of the politics that we're dealing with right now. And that's why I tell people to come to Jesus, because, Trump is only one man, but I feel like he's supreme, and he is the one that is going to, carry us over into the next generation and beyond, where you're going to see other nations fall. I don't want America to fall. I don't want America to not prosper and do well. But there's a lot of things that we deal with eternally that is almost a time like it was in the Civil War. That's how bad it is, right? We haven't seen this kind of radical mindset since the 60s. So I'm going to continue reading. That was just my commentary on that. It says, when Nebuchadnezzar defeats Pharaoh Necho, Babylon becomes the dominant power in the region. Sounds like China. In the same year, Nebuchadnezzar brought Judah under his control and took captives from Jerusalem, signaling the beginning and the end of the nation. Among the captives was a young man named Daniel, who, along with Ezekiel, became one of the great prophets of the exile. For the next 7 years, Jehoiakim remained publicly loyal to Babylon while probably plotting to ally with Egypt in hope of gaining independence from Judah. In 598 BC, Nebuchadnezzar returned Judah to overthrow Jehoiakim, replacing him with his 18-year-old son Jehoshaphat. After 3 months, it was clear that Jehoshaphat wanted to follow his father's dream of independence. So in 597 BC, Nebuchadnezzar replaced his uncle Meneseneh, who Nebuchadnezzar gave the throne to Zedekiah. Early in the second siege of Jerusalem, Nebuchadnezzar took a second group of captives to Babylon. Among them, there was a young man named Ezekiel, who from the priestly family of Buzi, a Zedekiah priest. Expectations were high that Zedekiah would usher in a new era of peace, prosperity, and stability. It soon became evident, however, that this was not the case. Ezekiel was 25 years old and was just 5 years from beginning his priestly service in the temple. Even after these two groups were taken captive, strong concurrence of rebellion continued to flow in Judah. Egypt formed a coalition with Edom, Moab, Ammon, Tyre, Sidon, and Judah. They planned to cast off the control of Babylon. Hopes were high with both Sidon and Judah. They planned to cast off the control of Babylon. I read that part. They dreamed out an early return to Jerusalem and convinced God would never allow the city to fall to the temple to be desecrated, but it was not to be so. Nebuchadnezzar returned for a third and final campaign that results in the fall of Jerusalem, the destruction of the temple, and the carrying off of the temple treasures to Babylon in 587. In 593 BC, 6 years before the fall of Jerusalem, Ezekiel received the first vision series of 14 visions that comprise the 48 chapters of this book. His ministry continued for at least 22 years until his prophetic vision in 571 BC. Ezekiel was married but had no children, as mentioned in the midst of his ministry. His wife died, a tragic loss that was the basis of one of his messages on the death thrones of the nation. His name means God strengthens. Indeed, he saw it. Okay, so that's a little bit about Ezekiel. But we all know that the world is going to end and Jesus is going to come back, right? The fall of America is nigh, right? Like if we don't change the direction, we don't put God back into our schools, we don't put God back into our institutions, we don't start praying, having a love for God, country, and family, we are going to fall, right? The America that you see, because the left is trying to bring communism. That's what they're trying to do, right? I had a friend say, well, the left is not trying to bring communism because you guys don't think critically. I was like, we thought critically about this, right? With the vaccine mandates and different things like that, right? So it's just apparent. You look at the inflation in the economy right now, it's not good, right? So, it's time for patriots and different people to rise up and to say this is enough, right? So, godly people need to understand that God is supreme and he is the God of God, King of kings and Lord of lords, right? Come to Jesus, right? If YouTube bans me, oh well, right? For preaching this message, right? God is the one, he is supreme. He is the one that we need to look towards. Come to Jesus. And these are the things that need to happen, right? I don't really have like the statistics, but I do know that marriages aren't working out. I do know that like something like 50% of marriages don't work, right? So that's feminism. That's all these different things that go against the mainstream. When you go against God, and look at how long it took, right? America was prosperous for 200 something years, and then in less than 60 years, that's the lifetime of an average human if they're healthy enough, right? 60 years, all it take was the desecration of society. In God's time, that's not even like 1,000 years is like a day. So it didn't take that long for the desecration of society to happen, and now we're here with the incompetent president, with the incompetent vice president, like all these different things, right? I know I'm gonna have people in the comments getting mad. Oh, you shouldn't be talking about this. You shouldn't be talking about this. No, I'm gonna talk about it, right? Maybe I'll do a video just on politics alone, right? Because these are things that need to be talked about. If you don't have God-centered leaders, your nation is going to fall, as we saw in Jerusalem, right? Josiah he was the last godly king, and then his son destroyed everything that he tried to build. He was like the Trump of his era, right? So, bottom line is, it's like I'm pouring my heart out to you. Come to Jesus, vote conservative, do the things necessary that we need to do in order to bring this country back and on a right path and on a right track. Otherwise, we're going to be taken over by Russia and China. That's just what it is. Point blank, period. All right, guys, I'm going to post this video. Thank you for everything. God bless. Take care.